What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today I'm going to talk to you young folks about a cheat code that you haven't heard about, more than likely. It's a cheat code out of poverty. It's a cheat code out of the lower class. It's a cheat code out of the trailer park, out of the hood, out of the bad neighborhoods, out of the poor areas. It's a cheat code to escape the trap. And it's called trade unions. Okay? It's a cheat code. It's something they don't tell you about. You don't get the education and the push that there is a middle class income waiting for you after high school that costs you no money, that will not put you in debt, that will give you positive returns on your investment in time, and a skill that you can carry with you anywhere in the world because it's needed everywhere. I'm talking welders, plumbers. I'm talking drywall, painters, carpenters, electricians, steam fitters. I'm talking about the trade unions, bricklayers. Everything is a skill. Everything is in high demand right now. All of it. As a matter of fact, CNBC issued an article on July 29th, that was this past Saturday, written by Lorianne LaRocco. And it says, the iconic American hard hat job that has the highest level of open positions ever recorded. Now, one thing that this article does not do, I don't think, I haven't really read the whole thing, but I don't think it points towards trade unions. There is a distinction between non-union construction work and union construction work. The cheat code is the trade unions. Google trade unions near me and find out what trade union piques your interest and who's close to you, and see about getting started. There are apprenticeship programs. There's on-the-job training. All of these things. I personally was fortunate enough to get into the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I kissed poverty goodbye. I went, sayonara, poverty. I don't want to be there. And I escaped the trap. And it was through a trade union. But that's not to say that the IBEW is the only way to go. Now, this article is telling us about a shortage of construction positions. A shortage of workers to fill those positions. Now, if we were to look at it from a capitalistic mindset, that would mean to me, you have a shortage of worker. We're talking supply and demand, right? That means you got to increase pay to entice folks to come and fill those positions that are so critical to the economy. That puts trade unions in a unique position of advantage, especially for those trade unions that are coming up on negotiations. Those unions that are getting ready to negotiate new contracts need to take a look at these articles and understand the position that we are in as construction workers, as installers. To understand the position that we're in so that we can then collectively negotiate the greatest contracts that we can for our members, and to entice new folks into the fold. Because there aren't enough legacy electricians to fill the positions, or legacy construction workers to fill the positions that we need to fill. So we have to organize more folks. We have to expand our apprenticeship classes. If we have to open up new apprenticeship schools in order to house more students so that we can get all of this going, we have to increase the avenues that our workers have to getting to journey person. All of these things, and this is specific to the IBEW because it's my trade and we have all these positions to fill. But industry-wide, we have got to figure out how we're going to bring more folks in order to collectively take hold of this opportunity in front of us. At any rate, let's dive into this article from CNBC, and I will drop it in the description box for you guys who are curious and love to read. Here we go. Key points and key takeaways. The construction industry in America is facing an extreme labor shortage, roughly 650,000 workers, slowing completion of construction projects from residential homes to infrastructure to hospitals. The shortage of construction workers has many causes: the pandemic and shifts in American cultural values and workforce demographics. That second bullet point, shifts in American cultural values, I think that's pointing directly at Florida and their racist policy that drove migrant workers out of the state and created an extreme shortage in Florida of construction workers. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the hatred that is being spewed out there, talking some about illegal immigration and all this other nonsense that people like to hype up in order to keep the working class divided. I just wanted to point that out because of how carefully they worded that. The solution, according to experts, is a balance between immigration policy, greater use of technology, and efforts to raise the profile of construction as a career path. There's a couple problems with that next text. They're saying the greater use of technology. That eliminates workers' jobs. If we're not having a way of creating a transition off of those using those technologies, if you're going to require less personnel, we have to figure out a way to balance that out, because you're cutting labor, you're cutting jobs. So need to think about that one carefully. Immigration policy. They're talking about bringing in more construction workers that'll work cheaper. We're seeing examples of this with, what was that company that's out in the ones that's building the microchip manufacturing plant out in Arizona. They're bringing in their workers from Japan and underpaying them and creating a very dangerous work site. So we have to be careful with that as well. That's not the key. The key is to entice American youth that construction is a viable pathway out of the lower classes and into the middle classes, increasing wages and increasing union membership. Unions, I need y'all to jump on the ball, because this should have a counter reply from the AFL-CIO and other union officials. I'm just a journeyman out here in a parking lot talking from the seat of my car. I'm no official person. This should be coming from official folks. This came out Saturday. We should be on top of a plan and discussion on how we're going to address this problem. The U.S. economy's post-COVID growth spurt has come amid one very big problem: a lack of workers for jobs across sectors as they bounce back from the pandemic and now attempt to grow amid tighter financial conditions. The labor market, where job openings have reached as high as 2 for each available worker, is a force within the inflation that continues to challenge companies looking to hire skilled workers. Nowhere has the tight labor market been more extreme than in construction. The construction sector is a fundamental backbone of the nation. Without structures created by construction workers, Americans would have nowhere to eat, sleep, work, or live. And yet, the industry is currently battling the highest level of unfilled job openings ever recorded. According to an outlook from Associated Builders and Contractors, a trade group for the non-union construction industry, construction firms will need to attract an estimated 550,000 additional workers on top of the normal pace of hiring in 2023 to meet the demand for labor. The construction industry averaged more than 390,000 job openings per month in 2022, the highest level on record. While unemployment in the sector is 4.6% of what was, while unemployment in the sector of 4.6% was the second lowest on record. A long-term labor force problem. There are simply not enough workers to keep up with the growing demand for houses, hospitals, schools, and other structures. What's more, with the passage of Biden's infrastructure bill, American municipalities have large sums of money to invest in the revitalization of their buildings, but no one to perform said revitalization. The number of online applicants for roles in the construction industry fell 40% at the beginning of the pandemic and has remained flat since, according to ZipRecruiter data from April. We're doing a bad job of getting the word out. Despite sharp increases in interest rates over the past year, the shortages of construction workers will not disappear in the near future, said ABC chief economist Anirban Basu in a February release on its labor supply and demand outlook. There is a labor shortage. There are about 650,000 workers missing from the construction industry, and construction backlogs are now at a 4-year high, said Maria Davidson, CEO and founder of Kojo, a materials management company, in an interview with CNBC's Lorianne LaRocco. The labor challenges come at a time when the construction sector is facing other supply headwinds that arose since the pandemic. The landscape has dramatically changed since February 2020, Davidson said. Commercial construction material prices are now 40% higher than they were back in February 2020. When you think about materials available, it becomes dire. Panels and commonly used equipment and everything from electrical and mechanical installations are now more than a year in delay. And that's made it very difficult for contractors all over the country to get the materials they need and be able to install them on time and keep projects on budget. Bring manufacturing back home, and not just microchips. Bring back manufacturing. We have to be able to supply our own job sites. That should be one of those points that we should be driving home every single second of every single day in order to get the word to the powers that be who love profiting off of the manufacturing being overseas, but it's hurting us. So we have to look past the facade, join together in solidarity, and make these points. The construction sector's labor issues are showing up across the economy. I think the biggest place we're seeing it show up right now is in housing, said Ruka van Kudre, an economist at Lightcast. People just aren't getting things built the way they want. In cases where you're building a big hospital project, as an example, you might have locked in the timeline that you expected to be complete, something like back in 2019, and now you're suffering the consequences of the material disruptions that we're seeing. What's more, delays cascade. When one contracting company experiences a delay in one trade or a disruption in the supply chain for one material, that'll delay their next trade or next material acquisition as well. So it cascades. For workers who seek construction jobs, the timing has never been better. They're making more money. It's a workers' market, said Brian Turmail, Vice President of Public Affairs and Strategic Initiatives at the Associated General Contractors of America. The construction industry is now paying 80% more than the average non-farm job in the United States. There is a constant supply of work and the opportunity to make additional income working overtime hours that would not be available if the labor pool wasn't so tight. Turmail cited an aging labor force as a reason for the continued shortage. Workers retire at earlier ages since it is such a physically demanding industry, and the labor force skews older. Construction firms have been incentivizing workers to delay their retirement and work as trainers or teachers. Even under these pro-worker conditions, a shift in American work culture has played a role in limiting the attractiveness of the field to job seekers. It's cultural, Turmail said. I don't buy that. Mom doesn't want her babies to grow up to be construction workers. For the last 40 years, we've been preaching a message nationally that the only path to success in life lies through a 4-year college degree in some kind of an office. That's true. But that's by design. That's true, but that was by design. We wanted to attack unions in the 80s. So what did? We started preaching about the GI Bill and started preaching about going to college as the only means of getting a high-paying job. And we stopped even mentioning construction workers as a viable means to the middle class. Working in construction can be extremely dangerous compared to other jobs, with the second highest rate of occupational fatalities according to the U.S. Census Bureau. That's why we go with trade unions, because of the safety, the focus on safety. Safety always has to come first. Van Kudre said that construction as a career path is not particularly appealing to young people. And until the U.S. government and construction companies find a way to change that belief amongst the labor force's newest generations, the shortage will linger. We should be advertising on TikTok. We should be advertising all over the place about the trade unions and specifically the financial gains of the trade unions. And you can focus on high-profile jobs like the data centers, hospitals. You can focus on all these projects and show the stages of construction and make it appealing to young folks. But you have to advertise to them because they haven't gotten the message. 40 years of go to college, 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 be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be a lawyer, real estate, real estate, real estate. Nobody's talking about construction because it was a plan to lower the amount of pay that's being put out there to the people doing the construction work. It was a way to drive wages down. It's backfired. Let's get it. Van Kudre said that construction as a career, all right, we already talked that. Plenty of money to build, not enough to recruit and train. This process, according to Turmail, starts in schools. Firms are realizing that no one's going to solve the problem but themselves. So they're building stronger relationships with high school programs, even middle school programs. They're finding ways to get students out to construction sites, to expose them to career opportunities. We should be first in line. And I'm talking about the trade unions. We should be banging down the doors of school boards and superintendents and principals, and we should be talking to teachers and doing career days all over the place. We should be in every school. Every school should have a union presence. What are we doing? Construction firms are not the only ones working to bring new people into the industry. LIUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, has efforts underway to reach more potential workers. We have a lot of different programs to bring new people into the construction industry, said Lisa Martin, LIUNA spokeswoman. Whether there's justice involved, bringing more women in, we have pre-apprenticeship programs. We have programs to help high school students graduate with skills to then start into apprenticeship programs. So we have a lot of different avenues to bring more people into the good paying jobs. Shifting the demographics of the existing construction workforce is a way to potentially alleviate some of the labor shortage. Construction is fighting workforce shortages with one hand tied behind its back, Termale said. Women are half the workforce, and yet they're somewhere between 6 to 7% of craft workforce. The men and women who actually do the construction work in the hard hats and the boots. And if we can find a way to increase those percentages, we won't even be talking about labor shortages. I think the environment needs to be inviting to women, to minorities, to the LGBTQ plus IA community. It has to be inviting to human beings to then come in and do the work. That's how we have to look at it from a personal perspective as we approach our construction jobs. We have to be kind to each other and support each other, and that's class solidarity. That's that bridging of the gaps, knowing that we're all on the same ladder rung and we're working together to increase the profitability of that ladder rung. This is logic. This isn't hard. Immigration policy is another important level for the construction industry. If you look at the demographics of the U.S., we don't have enough workers. We're just not going to for a very long time, Van Ducre said. Given we can't produce more workers in our own country, it makes sense that we would have to find them from other places. And I think that would definitely alleviate the sort of squeeze we're feeling, not just in construction, but really the whole economy. Maybe it's time for a shift. We should also be looking at ways to allow more people to lawfully enter the country and work in construction careers, whether that's a temporary work visa program that's specific to construction or broader comprehensive immigration reform. There needs to be part of the conversation. Immigration always has to be part of the conversation. It shouldn't be the focus, though, at least not from the trade union standpoint. We should be focused on organizing into the trades. Every high school, all the kids that are getting ready to graduate, they should know about the trade union route. President Biden's recent infrastructure bill magnifies the issue. Money has been allocated for updating America's infrastructure, but no money has been allocated for enticing new workers into the construction industry or training new workers. This, according to Davidson, has worsened the labor shortage that already existed prior to the bill's passage. Trade unions train their own apprentices, train their own workforce, and pay for it out of pocket. We don't take government money in the trade union movement. We pretty much pay for it on our own, and that's how we do our apprenticeships, and that's how it goes. We need to build more training facilities. We need to make that investment, and we need to, again, find a way to have more journey people to be able to do the training. More money is going to need to be spent on training additional workers, bringing people into the industry, Van Coudray said, because otherwise we are going to hit a point in the future where we're just not building the things we want to, not because we don't have the money, but because we don't have the people. So again, construction industry, trade unions, now is the time for that $30 an hour increase over 3. Now is the time for the big commitment by the employers to the employees in order to keep them happy and productive and moving forward, so that we can increase the membership, we can entice the unorganized into the organization, and with that we also have to train them up. If you're already in the industry and in the organizations, treat each other with respect and solidarity always. All right, my name's Eric. You're watching Union Minded. Remember, the fight's not left and right, it's up and down. It's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one, teach one, get out there and reach one. And remember, there can be no union without you and I front and center. Peace.